The alchemy of loss and the key to manifestation. The alchemy of loss, the fruit or the benefit, if you want to use that term, of this thing that we call loss. Whenever there's an event or a situation that happens that leads to some level of disappointment. And what do we do about it? What's going on, my high vibrational individual expressions of God on earth? This is your boy, Dr. Will Rogers, aka Master Teacher 33. Today I want to delve into, again, for a lot of people, again, today is my daughter's birthday that transitioned. Man, it's been about 7 years now. And around the birthday and also around, the date that she transitioned, there's always an awareness, there's always a consciousness about the lesson that was learned from that particular event. We know that there's no such thing as losses. There's only lessons. Some of us learn these lessons faster than others. But at the end of the day, it's all about lessons. It's all about understanding that everything that happens to you is happening for you. So everything that's happening to you is actually happening for you. So today's message, as we get into the key to all what we call manifesting. So there is no such thing as manifesting because everything is already existing. So what we have to do is we have to get to the core of essence of what I call what is within, what we talked about yesterday, which is source. So now we can declare and acknowledge. Then we're able to process and overcome. If we can declare and acknowledge, we are able to, whatever loss, whatever negative habit pattern, whatever current reality, because remember, you have to bloom where you're planted. You have to be able to see source where you're at. So whether you're on the mountaintop, whether you're on the valley, source is there. Because every mountaintop and the valley is still source. So it's like the analogy that I was using with the, find an ink pen. With an ink pen, whether we look at an ink pen and we say, this is the bottom, this is the top of that ink pen. So some people say you're at the bottom, negative, you're at the top, success. But notice success and negative or failure, they're both on the same plane. It's about polarity. It's about temperatures. It's about location. It's about focus. So if you're focusing, if you're located, if you're pigeonholed at this place versus this place, it's the same. It's just different levels of awareness. So if your awareness is down here versus your awareness being up there, you're going to experience down here instead of experiencing up there, even though they're both the same. They're both on the same plane. So when we're talking about temperatures, when we talk about planes, when we talk about elements, we're talking about the key. So the key is understanding. We don't really talk about loss. Because loss is just something that you really don't want to experience. So whether we're talking about it, like in my case, the loss of a child, or you talk about loss of a job, or you can talk about, loss of a home or loss of a car, loss. So a loss is just something that you had and you lost it, or loss could also be something that you expected, or you're expecting and it don't show up. So we have unrealistic expectations, if you want to use the term unrealistic. Because is it unrealistic? Not really. Because when you delve into understanding, declaring, and acknowledging what is, the greatest misunderstanding in life is associating source with the material realm. To think on a level where we're at. So when what do I mean by declaring and acknowledging? How do you declare what is? So manifesting simply means that the inability to see what's there. Because if we see this as solid, then we're trying to manifest something solid. But it's not solid. Because everything that is solid is made up of something that's not solid. So the physical realm is made up of the spiritual realm. So at the deepest level, all material things are not material things first. Now the Bible talks about this in Hebrews chapter 11 verse 3. So anytime there is something that is called loss. So this really helped me process grief. Because when you're in a state of grief, that simply means, especially when something that was here is gone, at no fault technically of your own or somebody else's. Okay, what do you do with that? Well, grief is energy. So energy cannot be destroyed. It just changes form. It changes location. It used to be located over here, now it's located over here. Or it used to be located over here, now it's located over here. So it's changing the location. It's still on this plane of existence, but it's in a different location now. And we can't see all the locations. We can only see one location at a time. So the brain can only fixate or collapse one reality at a time. So your job is to be able to do what Yahushua HaMashiach, aka Jesus, did. So Jesus understood how to transform water into wine because he understood the molecular structure of water. The same way like Dr. Emoto understood the molecular structure of water, and he was able to speak into the water and change the molecular structure of water. So epigenetics, since you and I are made up of 70 to 80% water, so your thoughts change your cells. So you're made up of cells though, but I don't look like a cell. I'm a body, but inside my body are trillions of tiny little cells. Each one of those cells have their own communication, their own brain, their own process, their own way of being. So my brain cells are different from my liver is different from the kidney is different from the spleen is different from the knee, the ankle, but each one of them functions. So my eye doesn't do what my ear do. My ear doesn't do what my eyes do. So the cells in my eyes are different from the cells in my ears, but they're still part of one body. So the eye cells could say, it's God. And the ears are not. And the ears could say, no, we are God because we can hear. But the mouth can say, hey, I can taste. But the hands can say, hey, I can touch. But each and every one of them are part of a whole. They are just being expressed on particular different planes of existence. So when we get into declaring, what we're doing is we're going past the outer court into the holy place. What that simply means is that when you get past the external and you get into the internal, when you are declaring, what you are doing is you're speaking to the essence of the thing. You are acknowledging the essence. So when you acknowledge the essence of loss or grief or suffering, what you're doing is you're acknowledging that there's an absence of a physical, in my case, a physical body. But that does not remove the spiritual essence. So if I go past the outer courts into the holy place, that's where I'm able to experience the spiritual essence. Now, that doesn't bring back the physical, but it does allow me to experience the spiritual. Now, let's go deeper down the rabbit trail. So when we're talking about declaring and decreeing, when it comes to manifesting, okay, what is wealth? What is health? What is wisdom? What is great relationships? Those are all different forms of prana. There's the different forms of ruach. There's different forms of the pneuma. There's different forms of spirit. There's different forms of source. There's different forms of ether. So the ether can express itself as a specific particle. That's all we're talking about. We're talking about how you have to get to a place of recognition. So when you get to a level of recognition, now you're able to recognize that matter is simply individualized prana. It's individualized. It's departmentalized. They're like the government. We got the Department of Energy. We got the Department of Agriculture. We got the Department of Health. But they're all part of one government. But they are departments because it allows the government to function better. Same thing with source. No different. So everything that you're trying to manifest is really source. So if you trace everything back, there cannot be no such thing as lack because there is no lack of source. So when you say, I am source, what are you saying? You are acknowledging the fact that you're an individualized expression of source. Now that's difficult for most people because most people identify with their flesh. They don't identify with the spirit. Even though the Bible tells us to walk in the spirit. So that way we don't fulfill the lust of the flesh. Because God is spirit. And those that worship God must worship God in spirit. So the problem is the spirit. So we're spending too much time in the flesh. Because the flesh wars against the spirit. The spirit wars against the flesh. These two are contrary to one another. So what we're talking about is going deeper down to the rabbit trail to identify. Your identity determines your reality. How you identify. And so your language that you use, because energy is consciousness, and consciousness is nothing but ordered intelligence. So when we're talking about the structure or the organizing of unlimited, all-knowing, all-power, all-present, we call that God. So we got to structure it. So when you structure God, it allows God to function. So we're declaring and acknowledging what is. It doesn't mean pretending or fantasizing. It means that you're recognizing the core essence. I'm reading from my book, by the way. The core essence beneath the appearance. So we have a shell that we're wearing. So you are the Word made flesh. So it is, because remember, in the beginning was the Word. The Word was with God. The Word was God. The Word became flesh and started to dwell among men. Your DNA is made up of what? Letters. Letters create what? Words. Words create sentences. Sentences create paragraphs. Paragraphs create chapters. Chapters create books. You're a book. I'm a book. Book of life. The book of life. All this is biblical. So when you understand that, like, if you were to get out of the flesh, if we were to stop identifying and go back to the core foundational essence of everything, every system that appears solid is made up of source, of God, the universe, the ether, the pleroma, the Peru. So when you get to that level of awareness, now what are you saying? If you really think about it, our money, cars, houses, institutions, everything. But when you remove the energy, when you remove the meaning, when you remove the coherence, when you remove the connectivity, everything collapses. And when it collapses, that creates division. The inability for us to see that this is organized intelligence. This is an orderly system that Source has created, God has created, for the purpose of expressing, exposing, and expanding him, her, or itself. So the inability that we have, we are debating and we are arguing over whether or not the forest is made up of trees. So the average, I keep it on, we are arguing over whether or not the forest is made up of trees, not knowing that the trees and the forest are the same thing. So when we talk about your state of being, we talk about your mental state. We're talking about there is an inner fire, there's an inner there's an inner spark. We have this treasure, but it's hidden inside of earthen vessels. What is this treasure? This treasure, Christ in you, the hope of glory. Biblical. So when we really nail this down, we are failing to, number one, declare the inner creative voltage, because we're all made up of energy, that's inside of Source. It is that inability to connect with this inner creative voltage. Now, if I didn't do that, then I probably wouldn't be here. What's going on, Sister Holly? Because when my daughter transitioned, thankfully I had the level of awareness to understand the energy cannot be created or destroyed, but it can change forms. What's up, Brother Fennell? What's going on, my brother? And so once I was able to make that connection, that got me into understanding death. Where is your sting? Grave, where is your victory? So Yahushua the HaMashiach took the keys of death, the keys, the key. So that keys help you unlock things. Now, I have this inside of my book, which I should have brought out, the key of knowledge. I break it down. All this is, again, this is the 1,000 for 1,000. Everything I talk about is just different chapters inside of the 1,000 books that I've written and published over the last 30 years. And so each one of these contain what I call Rhema knowledge, because it was a problem that I had. Remember, obstacles are the way. Your problem is your path. The solution is not to remove the obstacle. It's to become the obstacle. It's to embody the obstacle. It is to magnetize the obstacle. It's to focus on the self to the point where the obstacle now becomes the product or service by which the self is expressed. So you now override your negative habit pattern with a higher reality. Because remember, all problems and all solutions are the same. Going back to my ink pen. Okay, the end and the top, they're both the same. They're on the same plane. Hot and cold is at different degrees, different temperatures of the same thing. So up and down. So polarity is just two ends like a coin, heads and tails. But it's still the same coin. It's the same thing with politics, Republican and Democrat. Same thing with birds, left wing, right wing, same bird. So we are arguing and debating on whether or not the forest is made up of trees. So manifesting, processing grief, overcoming negative habit pattern, first thing you have to do is change your perspective of the problem, of the situation. Because the situation is not the issue. The issue is how you see the situation. It's how you interpret the situation. So you may have to go deeper. So when you are on the flesh level and somebody transitions, you see the law of the physical body. Remember, that is the embodiment. But what is the embodiment of? Now, don't want to lose you. Now, all this is broken down in the book when we talk about the physics of this thing that we call death. When we get into the physics of it, because life and death is in the power of the tongue. So my job is to help you to over and understand the psychology of grief and how the mind builds mountains out of molehills because we don't process grief and loss and negative habit patterns the way that we should. Because grief is not an emotion. Grief is a neurological event. Grief is a story that we tell ourselves about an event that happened. If I remove the story, then I remove the grief. Because an event happens and I assign a meaning to that event. What if I change the definition of the meaning of the event? See, somebody told you that death or loss is a negative, so you have feelings attached to it. So I'm not saying that you should or you shouldn't. I'm just saying that you want to address the definition of the event, the meaning, and maybe assign a different meaning. Because when you assign and you change the definition that's been assigned, because it's tradition. Everybody says that you should grieve this way. Everybody says that you should have this reaction. Okay, just because someone else have a reaction. Now, notice Jesus' reaction or Yahushua's reaction when Lazarus was dead. When Lazarus died, everybody was grieving. 3 days, they said. When Jesus finally got there, they told him he was too late. But what would Jesus say? What was his reaction to Lazarus being dead for 3 days? He put everybody out. He went into the room and he said, Lazarus, come forth. So his perspective of Lazarus being dead for 3 days was totally different, according to the narrative, than everybody else's. So who determines the definitions of the words that you use? Because whoever determines the definitions of the words that you use, whoever determines the story, whoever determines the meaning, they determine the quality of your life. Because, again, we associate things based upon the level of awareness. So when you change your level of awareness, you change your meaning. So this is getting into what I call the spiritual laws of transmutation, of turning energy into evolution. See, when you get to this level of awareness, everything's energy. Number one, everything's energy. The biggest problem that everybody have is we associate physical. We believe everything's physical because we live in the physical. It's understandable. So we gotta get into, number one, the physics of pain, the physics of suffering, the physics of entropy, the physics. When you get into the physics of it, you realize that the spiritual law of transmutation take that things change form because everything is made up of frequency, waves, and vibrations. In fact, everything is made up of God because God, in him we live, we move, and we have our being. inside of him. So Galatians says, I've been crucified with Christ. It is no longer I who live, but Christ who lives in me. So we are individualized expressions of source. When we drop this dirt suit, we go back to source based upon physics. So without that level of awareness, without understanding and getting out of tradition, getting out of philosophy, getting out of theory and religion, and getting into physics and understanding science, understanding psychology, then that allowed me to over and understand that, whoa. I'm living without power because I'm assessing and I'm assigning meaning. So I don't have the ability to move forward. I was stuck. I didn't understand spiritual engineering. So I had to become a spiritual engineer, but there was no courses. There were no, at least I didn't find any. I didn't understand spiritual intelligence. I had natural and man-made intelligence, but I didn't understand the psychology behind spirituality. I didn't understand how does God think? How does God process loss? How does God experience this thing that we call entropy? How does God age if God is eternal? God is he's eternal. He's all-knowing, all-power, all-present, all-loving, all-simple, all-benevolent. These are the attributes and characteristics of energy. And we have those same attributes and characteristics because we're made in the image and in the likeness of all-knowing, all-power, all-present, all-simple, and all-loving. So if we're made in the image, if we're made in the likeness, this saved my life. Because the reason that it saved my life, because it helped me to over and understand that, hold up, wait a minute. If my daughter is no longer here in the physical realm, does that mean that she doesn't exist in the spiritual realm? Then it also helped me to get and understand that, hey, when it comes to money, when it comes to wealth, if all money is nothing but organized and orderly intelligence. So when I organize and when I structure my thought, that's what we're talking about. We're talking about organize. We're talking about structured thought at the end of the day. And so when we organize and we structure our thought according to universal spiritual laws, instead of man-made laws, what happens? What happens if you go all the way back? Think for a moment. What happens if you no longer look at money as paper? What happens when you change the definition? This is the medium of exchange. This is just something that is given in exchange for something. This is not money. Money is just what? Structured thought. Okay, what is structured thought? Structured thought is intelligence that is used to create a tool that solves a specific problem or brings about a result. So the reason that humanity, mankind, is on top is because we can use our intelligence to create better tools than animals or than plants. So the reason that plants are not ruling the world or animals are not ruling the world because they have intelligence, but they don't create tools with their intelligence that allows them to solve greater problems. Humanity does that. So the source. So since we're made in the image and likeness of source, we have that same power and that same ability. So it is this ability to understand how we perish, like the Bible says, for lack of knowledge. We have a lack of knowledge when it comes to the awareness of the proper identification of all material in the material realm. We have to stop identifying the physical realm with the physical realm. We must identify the physical realm with the spiritual realm. Because all physical comes from spiritual. So mind molds matter. All the physics say that. So everything starts off as an ideal in the mind. Somebody had an ideal and they wrote it down, they implemented it, they some kind of way they was able to build something. They was able to turn a negative into a positive by refusing to let the negative define them. So your call to action is for you to take your pain, instead of making it a tomb, make it a throne. So when we look at the fact that how do we build, when you experience a lot of adversity, your job is to take the adversity and transmute that adversity. So now how do you transmute adversity? But the first thing is you got to realize that everything that happens to you is for you. What does that mean? That means it's a lesson. So now when you look at adversity, you look at it as, what is the lesson that I'm supposed to learn? But remember, we don't think like that. When something happens to us, what happens? We're disappointed, we're angry, we're upset. That's a feeling, that's emotions, that's natural. But after you feel that, what do you do next? Now, everybody's timeline is different. Some people stay in that state longer than other people. That's okay, because we're all different. So everybody experiences and everybody processes negative habit patterns or pain differently. But the goal is, do not allow the pain to become your tomb. Allow that pain to become your throne. In other words, you want to take that pain and you want to build. So it's not meant to silence you. It's meant to summon you. That's what it's for. It's God's way of getting your attention. It's the universe calling you, summoning you. It's not meant to silence. It's meant to summon. So my job and your job is to make sure that, hey, we don't allow it to weaken us, but we allow it to weaponize us. So we use the pain as a motivating. Remember, when you are deprived through the absence of not having A, B, C, and D, that deprivation creates motivation. It should. For some, it creates depression. So your job is to, again, and it takes time because everybody's different. But when you get to the point where you realize that, hey, I'm not going to allow this to silence, it's going to be my summons. I'm not going to allow it to weaken. I'm going to use it as a weapon. I'm not going to let this become a tragedy. I'm going to allow it to bring about a transition. So it's the re-verbalizing, changing the meaning. You get to define the definition of the words that you use. You also get to assign meaning to events. That's your power. True power comes from your ability to not allow someone else to determine the meaning of the events that happen in your life. When I changed that, my whole life changed. So my life changed when I took control and I didn't let a reverend, doctor, bishop, mother, father, professor, aunt, uncle, brother, sister, neighbor, friend, husband, wife. When you stop allowing other people to determine the definitions of the meaning of the events that are happening in your life. Now remember, you live on the level of your awareness. So when you are feeling down, that means you have a weakened signature. When you have a weakened signature, you have a weakened signal. When you have a weakened signal, that simply means you have a weakened identity. When you have a weakened identity, that simply means that you don't see yourself as source. That means that you don't pray as God, you pray to God. That's a big difference. So you don't see yourself as Jesus, you worship Jesus. Now the goal is to do both. So Jesus said, the things that I have done, you shall do. And even greater things than these, because I'm going to be with the Father. So Jesus is operating in you. And Jesus is operating as you. Jesus is manifesting him, her, or itself through you. So the question is, what would Jesus do? Remember back in the day, they used to have on t-shirts, and they used to put them on stickers that WWYD, what would Jesus do? Or WWJD. It was the same thing today. So the mindset, because you got to be ye transformed by the renewing of the mind. So the enemy attacks you in the mind. That's what the Bible says, to bring every thought into captivity. It's easy to sit here and have this discussion and talk about these topics, but it's a whole other thing to implement them. That's what prayer is. Prayer is your ability to analyze the events that are happening in your life and reassign meaning and definition that fits the Bible or fits what God say about it. So what does God say about you? Do you say the same things about yourself that God does? I doubt very seriously, because God says you're a royal priest. God says that you are a joint heir. God says that you are fearfully and wonderfully made in his image and likeness. God wishes to do exceedingly abundantly above anything that you can ask or think. God says that all things work together for your good. That's a big one. All things, not some. So when something bad happens to you, God said that all things work together for you, for your good, to bring you up, to bring God. The Bible says God's not giving you a spirit of fear, but he gave you a spirit of love, power, and a sound mind. So do you say to yourself about yourself, or do you say, oh man, this ain't gonna work. Oh man, I'm broke. Oh, I'm tired. Oh, nobody loves me. See, we speak death. We don't speak life. I mean, not you personally, but people you know. Most of us, we speak death to our situations because we let our situations dictate to us our feelings. So we have to reverse engineer our reality. So your flesh is not supposed to control your spirit. Your spirit is supposed to control your flesh. It says walk in the spirit. It doesn't say walk in the flesh. So it's supposed to be spirit, soul, and body. It should not be body, soul, spirit. So we got it backwards. Most of us. Most of us, our flesh dictates our feelings, and our feelings control our spirit. But where it should be is your spirit is supposed to control your feelings. And then your feelings is supposed to control your behavior. But we don't have the Spirit of God. Now, that's a whole nother study for another time. So the goal is to get to the point of understanding that we have to go all the way back to first base. And the first base is we do not have a proper ID. That's the whole point of doing ID reports, dignity reports, is to assist you with understanding what God says about you. Because when you really look at how you are fearfully and wonderfully made in the image and likeness of God, if you choose to identify with your spirit instead of identifying with your flesh, 99.999% of your problems are gone. And then it's just a matter of maintaining what we talked about yesterday. Number one, crystal clear clarity of self. Self is source. Source is put himself inside of you in the form of attributes and characteristics. We call that personality traits. We call that gifts. We call it talents. We call it skills. Some people are good at, like if you're life path 1, you're good at, you're a good leader. If you're life path 2, you're a good peacemaker. If you're life path 3, you're a good creator. If you're 4, loyal, dependable. If you're 5, adventurous. If you're 6, responsible, communicator. If you're 7, intellectual, analyzer. If you're 8, you're a good decision maker, executive. If you're 9, you're sophisticated. You're royalty. You carry yourself. High vibrational way of thinking. So those are the attributes and characteristics. Now, it's a lot deeper than that. But that is a basic understanding of the basic 9 life paths that exist on this planet. You are in one of those lanes. But what if you don't know that? Well, if you don't know that, you can't do that. You can't be that. You can't operate from that space. And so somebody can come up to you and they could define you. So you're supposed to see the world through the eyes of God, not the eyes of man. So in other words, you have to look through the lens. You have to go up higher. You have to elevate your consciousness. You have to see the world the way God sees the world. So when God looks down here, God only sees other gods. God only sees himself. That's what we go through the sun. So Yahushua the HaMashiach covers. So when God looks down, he doesn't see our sin. He sees his son. That's the whole point of the biblical story, is to get to the point where there's none righteous, no, not one. So we have a mediator. We have an intermediary. We have somebody who is our intercessor, who intercedes. So that way when God looks down, he sees himself. He doesn't see your mess or your stress. He sees your best. So your job is to also see the same thing that God sees. But we got this brain that's telling us. We got other people that's telling us. We got the world that's telling us, oh man, you're not this and you're not that. So we believe the world, which is ourself, over what God says in the word and what God has already done through Yahushua the HaMashiach, aka Jesus the Christ. And so it is this lack of a proper ID. How you self-identify determines how high you fly. How you self-identify determines how high you fly. So if you see yourself with a very low disposition, your rewards in life equals your identity in life. So if you identify as, even in the world, if you identify as a pilot, you get paid based upon how you identify. Because how you identify, that's how you qualify. So in other words, the brain brings to you the vibrational equivalent of your identity. I'll say it again. The brain draws to you the vibrational equivalent of you. So if there is a lack in the physical realm, there's a lack in the spiritual realm. There's a lack of spiritual identification. That leads to a lack of physical manifestation. So we look at the physical realm first, when we should look at the spiritual realm. Because everything from success to grief is energy. It's called the emotional scale. So there's fruit of the flesh, and then there's the fruit of the spirit, but they're all states. They're all mental dispositions. Your job is to collapse a mental disposition. That's physics. That's not religion. So when we understand that spirituality and physics are both the same, it is the architecture of the soul. Because the soul is made up of the mind, the will, the emotion, the imagination, and the intellect. So when you speak, you should speak as one having authority. Because God gave you that. He gave you the authority to trample on snakes and scorpions and all power of the enemy, and nothing shall by no means harm you, according to the word. So you have the power. Now, whether you use the power or not, that's another study for another time. So when you get to this level of where you understand that loss awakens a new level of consciousness that comfort never could. So adversity, grief, disappointment, problems, obstacles, they awaken a level of consciousness and awareness that comfort cannot. So the reason why, if you go through the scripture, you will see that every time someone prayed and asked for a solution, God gave them a problem. Every time, whether it's Samson and Delilah, whether it's David and Bathsheba, whether it was, my boy that Noah, and everything to the Bible, especially when we look at the story of Solomon, which is one of the best stories that I like, because when Solomon asked for something, God said, hey, ask me for anything. And he said, hey, I want wisdom. So God sent him 2 women and 1 baby. Solomon asked for wisdom, and God sent him a problem. So every time you ask God for something, he's going to send you a problem. So if you got a lot of problems, that simply means that you've sent in a lot of requests. So if you don't want no problems, then you might want to stop sending in requests. Because God answers all questions with problems. It is through the processing of the problem that you expose the divinity from within. So obstacles and problems, obstacles are the way. Problems are the path. Every time you ask God, source, the universe, pray, manifest, you are asking for a problem. The way that the universe works is in polarity. You want money, you get poverty. And it is through the process of working through. Remember, never try to change the situation or the event. Change the self. So most people, we focus on, if we got a problem in a marriage, most people focus on their mate. It's not the mate. Remember, everything that's happening to you is a projection from you. So everything that's happening outside of you matches everything that's going on inside of you. So if you want to change the outside, change the inside. So the key that most people miss is we address the outside. So we focus on external demonstration instead of internal revelation. So when you switch, because remember, God is spirit. Those that worship him must worship him in spirit. So you got to go into the spirit realm to change the physical realm. So when you understand that, then death, where is your sting? Grave, where is your victory? Then all of the spookism is gone. All issues, problems, you don't have to call nobody because you know you are somebody. So then you know when you get to this level of awareness, you know that every problem that you have is the externalization of the internal revelation or lack thereof. Every problem in your life is an externalization of a lack of internal revelation. Because my people perish for lack of knowledge. There's no demons, no devils, it's knowledge, boo-boo. Gnosis. My people are destroyed for lack of knowledge. We broke that down a couple of days ago. So all problems, all issues is the way that you're interpreting the event. Nobody wants to hear that. I admit, zero, myself included. I would prefer to blame the white man for my problems. I prefer to blame, the way I was raised. I prefer to blame my mama and my daddy. I prefer to blame the wife, the kids, the neighbor, the dog, the monkey, the squirrel. I prefer to blame somebody else. Why? Because if you can project the problem outside of yourself, the solution is outside of yourself. The biggest mistake that we make is when we say the problem is the government. When we say, as black people, we say the problem is white people. And then white people say the problem is black people. Then that means that the problem is always outside of you, like it talks about in the Gospel of Thomas. So the first level of awareness, the first level of success, a solution is taking 100% ownership, 100% responsibility, and 100% accountability to every event that happens in your life. That's first base. The moment that you get to the level of awareness where you can take ownership, because see, loss awakens consciousness. Adversity, problems expose purpose. If there is no problem, you can't have no purpose. Because purpose is only used when there is problems. If there is no problem, there is no need for purpose. So purpose only shows up when problems show up. Samson didn't activate his purpose until Delilah showed up. David didn't activate his purpose until Bathsheba showed up. Noah didn't activate his purpose until the flood shows up. And we go on and on and on through the biblical stories, we will see that every man had a problem. And it is through the navigation of the problem that he exposed his purpose or his divinity. You are doing the same thing. So your problem ain't going anywhere. So you might as well get comfortable. Because you are married to your problem. Most people I know they're trying to get rid of, they're trying to divorce their problem. Like relationship, you can divorce one partner, you get another partner, they're going to have the same attributes and characteristics as the partner that you just left. Why? Because the problem is not your partner, the problem is you. The problem is the way that you process, the way that you see the information. That's hard, I know. Trust me. The hardest thing on earth is to look in the mirror and see the solution and the problem. I tell people all the time, you want to see the devil, go look in the mirror. If you want to see God, go look in the mirror. See, the flesh wars against the spirit, and the spirit wars against the flesh. Now, we got religion, and so we like to externalize everything. Overstand. I ain't mad at you. Boo-boo, do you. But when you get to the highest level of the game, you will realize that you have this treasure hidden in earthen vessels. That means that you are God in the flesh. You are also the devil in the flesh. Read Romans 7. You don't believe me? Read Romans chapter 7 and read Romans. The flesh wars against the spirit wars against the flesh. These two are contrary to one another. Every time I want to do good, bam, bad is there with me. The Bible says there's none righteous, no, not one. So what do? Identify. What does that mean? How do you self-identify? Since, according to the book of Galatians, you've been crucified with Christ, it's no longer you who lives, so who's living? Well, the Bible says God is not giving you a spirit of fear. He gave you a spirit of love, power, and a sound mind. How about you use what God gave you? See, we don't use the attributes and characteristics that have been given to us by God. We prefer what man says over what God says, over what the universe says. And we can get rid of the Bible. We could use universal spiritual laws. We could use biology. So we can use cosmology too. We could talk about planets and stars. We can get into astrotheology. We can use the zodiac sign and we can break it down using cosmology. Oh, you want to use cosmology? No problem. Let's use theology. Oh, you want to use theology? No problem. Let's use biology. Because the Bible is the body and the body is the Bible. You have telomeres and the telomeres age when you unravel. Meaning, if the telomeres don't unravel, you don't age. Now, the word telomere is also found in Hebrews chapter 6, verse 1. The word maturity means teleates or teleas in the Greek, which means telomere in the English, which means maturity. So the Bible says, let us go on to maturity. So if you really don't want to transition from a biological, again, look at Dr. David Sinclair's work. Look at my boy, Dr. Joe Dispenza. Look at Royal Raymond Rife. Look at Dr. Bruce Lipton. Look at all the studies that's talking about longevity. And look at NAD. Look at NNN. Look at all of the precursor science. Look at autophagy. Look at all of my books that I've written already on neurotheology. Look at all my stuff that I've written on theocentric nutrition. This is all anti-aging stuff. So we age, we entropy, we transition, we die because we believe we're supposed to die. We've been taught and we've been programmed by the dominant culture that, Negro, you're supposed to age. You're supposed to die. But according to all of the science, they can't figure out why we transition. Because the cells are immortal. The mitochondrial DNA, I mean, just look at it. It's in your DNA. So what's happening? Well, the DNA starts to fracture. Through what? When you get inflammation in the system, when you get antioxidants in the system, this is all introduced though. So what if you don't introduce it into the system? What if you do what Dr. Sebi talked about? So what did Dr. Sebi talk about? Mucus. Remember your boy Michael Jackson was sleeping in those hyperbaric chambers? So what happens if you look at Maxwell Gershon stuff? Oxygen. If you introduce oxygen to the body, no disease can exist in an alkaline body. Zero. Don't believe me? Google it. Research it, man. You got access to, you got the entire library in your phone. You got access to the universe. Thanks to artificial intelligence now. So you can, everything I've just said, you can research it. You can do it for yourself. You can fact check me and you will see just by doing the research for yourself. So we've been given everything that we need for life and godliness. So we already have it. But the Bible says, my people perish for lack of knowledge. So the smoking gun, in conclusion, the ability to turn the negatives into positive is the ability to change the meaning of the event. You got that power right now. You can change the meaning of an event. That's how powerful you are. You are so powerful. What's up, Sister Christy? You are so powerful. What's up, Brother Mavis? That you can change the meaning of events. That's how powerful you are. Right now, you get to determine the definitions of the words that you use. I don't know if you understand what that means. So something can happen to where everybody in your family can say that is bad. You could decide that that is good. You could decide that that was the best thing that could have happened. Let's say that was a pet that transitioned. Now you don't want the pet to transition. So everybody else is grieving. But instead of you seeing the pet transitioning as negative, you could assign that the pet was, let's say the pet was 20 years old, and in dog years, that's all. Because I have a pet, I have a dog named Simba. He's getting up in age. So when you look at how you decide meaning, you will see that you are making a mistake that they gave us, because they gave us the definition of these words before. So the English, Noah Webster, who's Noah Webster? Matter of fact, who is Noah Webster's daddy? Like, who is Donald Trump? Well, who's Donald Trump's daddy? So look at the lineage. Bill Gates. Who Bill Gates' daddy? What is your boy Elon Musk? Who is Elon Musk's daddy? If you go back and do some history, and if you do a little research of all of the members of the dominant culture, look at their family. You'll understand what's going on in the world today. What's up, Brother Mwanga? So you can only be bamboozled based upon the level that you refuse to study to show yourself approved. And so it is done unto you as you study. People perish for lack of study. Because if you do etymology, and if you change the definition, so when you do that, as I said at the beginning of today's message, if you do two things, if you declare what universal law says, and if you acknowledge the essence of universal spiritual law, let's just say one of the Hermetic principles, all is mental. If you just say that universal principle, so just that all is mental, what does that mean though? All is mind. So when you understand, what does that mean? That means all is vibration. What does that mean? All is frequency. So frequency is the amount of time that you bring a thought to the mind. So how frequently does the thought come to your brain that you are an individual expression of God on earth? If God be for you, who can be against you? How frequent does that thought come into your brain? That establishes your vibration. Frequency and vibration. You emit that out into the universe, and then you collapse subatomic particles around what thoughts frequent your brain. So if you frequently are telling your brain that I'm a loser, you're going to have to attract loserville, loss. So when you frequently say to yourself that you are vibrational equivalent of source on earth, that all things work together for your good, that no weapon formed against you can prosper, that you have the power to walk through the valley of shadow and death, and nothing shall by no means. So if you go through, and if you redefine the meaning of the events that are happening in your life today, if you redefine the meaning, if you redefine the definitions. So when God called Abraham out of Ur, he told him to leave the Phoenicians, the dead Phoenicians, but we got them now. So definitions are definitions. That's tradition. So you got to change the definitions. You got to change the meaning for you. So that way, in other words, you got to reconstruct your thoughts. So that way what? The glass is always half full. It's never half empty. So no matter what is going on, God is in there. If God be for you, who can be against you? See, the problem is that events happen in our life, and we can't find God in the midst of those events. And when you can't find God in the midst of those events, that's when you're in trouble. Because the Bible says all things work together for your good. The Bible says if God be for you, who can be against you? See, no weapon formed against you can prosper. All who rise up against you shall fall. But what happens when you rise up against you? So you are your own worst enemy because you refuse to identify with what source soul says. Because the anti-source, you, is more powerful than source, you. So there's a war going on. The flesh is warring against the spirit. The spirit is wars against the flesh. These two are contrary to one another. So if we get down to where the rubber meets the road, the final word, if you want to use that term, is the alchemy of loss. It is the alchemy of problems. It is how do we transmute? So transmutation. That's what this book is about. That's what today's message is about. Transmutation. Transmutation. It is mutation. It's the ability to morph. It's the ability to use morphology. So morphology is the ability to change form using ology. Ology means words. Morph means form. Morphology. So morphology, using theology, using biology, using cosmology, using psychology, using all of the ologies. So ology means words. And then psychology, using words to establish psychology, using words to change form. So be ye transformed by the renewing of your mind. Wrong words, wrong world. So the problem is we're using the wrong words. So what words are we supposed to use? Well, thankfully, God gave you the words already. He put it inside of your DNA. So inside of your DNA, you got something called a codex. You got a codon. You got the book of life inside of you. So all of your ancestors, all of your genes. So genes are codes that they are turned on. Now again, this is getting deep into epigenetics. This gets into Dr. Bruce Lipton's work inside of his book, The Biology of Belief. So when you understand this, now the Bible says the same thing. Faith is the substance of things hoped for, the evidence of things not seen. This is alchemy. This is the ability to change, to transmute negative into positive. You got that power, bro. You got that power, sis. You got the power to take negative and transmute, turning lead into gold. That's your power. And you do it with this. Life and death is in the power of the tongue. But the tongue only spits what the brain maintains. So out of the mouth, the heart speaks. That just simply means when it comes out of your mouth, it's too late. Because your brain has already formulated the thoughts. So the Bible tells us to bring every thought into captivity and see if it is of God. So the Bible also tells us what to think about. So your job is to establish a ruling disposition. We talked about that, 3 shows ago, and I talked about establishing a dominant mental disposition. So why in the world, I'm not saying that it don't happen. I'm telling you from personal experience. If I hadn't done what I'm telling you to do today, I wouldn't be here right now. Because of what I was feeling and what I was thinking immediately after my daughter transitioned. She was only 19. When a father loses a child, especially his daughter, is different. I've experienced grief before. Parents transition, sibling, but a child is different. Especially as a father, because you are the provider and you are the protector. That's your only job. And when you fail to do that as a father, where you go from there? There ain't nowhere to go. So you have to be able to find positive in the middle and in the midst of negative. If you cannot find that silver lining in that gray cloud, boo-boo, you're in trouble. You got one option left. Same option that I came to my brain. You already know what I'm talking about. We ain't got to say it. Because what else you going to do? Where you going to go? Who you going to call? Who can I call? Can't nobody help you, bro. Your reverend, your doctor, your bishop, they can't help you. Not at this level. Now, they can say encouraging words, but them words don't have no weight. I already know because people called me and told me, hey, bro, it's going to be all right. Really? See, words that have weight, words that have meaning, comes from personal, real-life experience. Don't come from no shit you read out of no book. Don't get me wrong. Book knowledge is great, bro. Book knowledge is off the chain. But when the devil shows up at your house, when he knock on your door, everybody gets to turn him up the back. Like nigga will talk mad trash to the devil show up at their house. So when the devil shows up at your house, when that negative habit pattern, when that event happens, what do you do? Because it happened to you. So everybody going to say nice things. Oh, my condolences. Sorry for your loss. I'm praying for you, brother. God be with you, my brother. Oh, yeah, those are nice, formy words, Brother Mwanga. Sounds good on paper, bruh. That don't do shit for your grief, though. It don't bring your loved one back. See, everybody likes to, man, people talk. You got to be careful who you're listening to, man. You better talk to somebody who's been there and done that. I don't listen to nobody. I don't follow nobody. I don't talk about nobody. I respect everybody. I am not going to implement nothing nobody tells me that they have not personally done themselves. So you can't talk to me about nothing that you have not done. So I ain't talking to you about nothing that I'm not done. All my books, everything I do is just events that I've personally done. I just went through a lot of stuff. Now, I ain't signed up for it, at least to my knowledge, Brother Mwanga. It just like, shit started happening since 5 years old, bro. I came out the womb dodging bullets, homie. So all I do is talk about my life experiences. And I'm telling you, I love when people talk about stuff that they don't know. Because they don't know that they're actually ordering that event. Be careful of idle chatter and vain babbling. Scripture talks about that too. Because you're literally ordering. You're literally structuring. See, you structure your reality with spoken mentality. Abracadabra, I create what I speak. It is done unto you as you believe. You spit what you believe. If you really listen to what people say, they will tell you what's going to happen to them. Because they're telling you where they're at. You just get out of the way and you just let them drive over the cliff. Now, if someone asks, I'm going to tell them the truth. Sister Christy, I don't volunteer no information to nobody. If someone asks me, though, I'm going to tell them the truth. I'm not going to give them King James Version. Because 99.99% of the time, I've already driven off the cliff already. So when it comes to relationships, people talking to me about relationships, I've already been there, done that. I got three t-shirts already. But people have to experience it for themselves. You can talk till you're blue in the face. You tell people what's going to happen. All my clients, they already know because I've already told them. They ask me, I tell them, okay, this is going to happen. How do I know it's going to happen? Because I already been down that road. It's like in the Matrix. You know, Neo's driving, they pull over, he get ready to get out of the car, and Trinity tells him, you don't want to go down that road. You already been down that road. You know what's down that road. So he gets back in the car. Because he knows what's down that road. Some of us have to go down that road again, though. It's okay. We all are at different levels of awareness. It's difficult to watch family members and friends drive off the cliff. But it's okay. Because that was me. People tried to tell me when I was young, I didn't listen to Brother Mwanga. People tried to tell me, hey, bro, you know, man, you sure you want to do that? I mean, when I got out of the military, man, people were telling me, man, so what you going to do when you get out? Shoot, I don't know. So you got no plan. You got a wife, you got kids. And so how you going to take care of your family? I'm going to figure it out, bro. And you know what I said? I said, well, God got me. That's when I was in my religious cuckoo phase. Oh, I had faith, Brother Mwanga. God was going to do it, bro. So I got out of the military with no job, no plan, just faith. You know what happened? Crashed and burned. Multiple times. Did the Reverend Dr. Bishop volunteer to pay my light bill? Nah. All those years tithing and going to church, when the shit hits the fan, guess who got your back? Yeah, you do. So if you ain't got no plan, bruh, if you ain't got no plan, sis, it's done unto you as you believe. The shit's on you. That means you got to figure it out. So ain't nobody coming to drop out of the sky to save you, homie. Ain't no money going to come out of the sky. Like, I don't know where y'all from. But I've 60 plus years, I ain't seen no money drop out of the sky yet. What does that mean? If it is to be, it is up to me. Period. If it is to be, it is up to me. If it is to be, it's up to you. That means you need to formulate a plan of action, and you need to implement that plan of action. If somebody pulls alongside of you to assist you, that is great. But guess what, bro? Don't set up no unrealistic expectations and no misplaced dependency. Don't get it twisted. This is on you. This is your life. This is the only one that you get, to my knowledge. That means if you want something to happen, you need to get up and make it happen. You need to figure it out. Because ain't nobody coming to save you, bro. This is real deal, Holyfield. And people don't tell people that. Everybody got this warm and fuzzy stuff. Like warm and fuzzy don't pay your light bill, bro. If you do not figure the blank out, it is not going to happen. Thankfully, it's already been done. It's already been figured out. What does that mean? It's already been done. It's already been figured out. All you have to do is make an identity shift. You have to make an identity shift. If you do not make an identity shift, this is the key. It's the title of the book, by the way. The key. You want to pick it up. If you do not make an identity shift, nobody can help you. You see, the universe, and I wish, there's no way to really teach this because it has to be experienced. You can tell people that they need to shift their identity. And they're going to look at you like, what? Transmutation is the reconstruction of the soul. You have to become the architect of your soul. Your soul is your mind, your will, your emotions, your imaginations, and intellect. You, not your mama, not your daddy, not your boo-boo, not the reverend, the doctor, the bishop. You, Negro, you have to become the architect of your soul. And if you don't take the bull by the horns and make a decision, bad, good, or indifferent, no decision is making a decision. Number one, make a decision. Number two, emotional saturation of the decision. Number three, remove our contradictory statements to that decision. You do those three things, I guarantee you success. Guaranteed. Number one, make a decision. Number two, emotionally saturate yourself in that decision. Number three, remove all contradictory people, places, and things to that decision. Not physically. Because remember, really, nobody can bother you, touch you, help you, or hurt you. This is on you. This is your world. Everybody else is just living in it. So you can't blame nobody but yourself. That's the beautiful thing about life. Now, if you're under 21 and you're a kid, okay, yeah, you shouldn't even be on this show, bro. This is for grown folks. But I'm talking about the highest level of the game. Do you know the average of the Kibelon, they have problems with taking responsibility for their own life? They really believe it's somebody else's responsibility. See, this book is about changing dimensions. Changing dimensions. Changing your entire reality. That's what this is about. Quantum jumping. Quantum shifting. Reality is energy before it's matter. So you have to declare that reality is energy before it is matter. Let me say this really slow. This is the cream de la cream. This is the smoking gun. This is what you've been listening for an hour for. If you don't get nothing, get this. Number one, reality is energy before it is matter. Sister Christy, I'm pausing for theatrical effect. Reality is energy, an entity, and an energy before it's matter. One more time for the Negroes in the back. All events are spiritual before they're physical. My daughter transitioned. For 2 years, Brother Mwanga, for 2 years before my daughter transitioned, she told me she was going to transition. The way she told me why, when she expressed her displeasure with her current medical condition. That's why at that time I was putting a lot in, and she had epilepsy, she had seizures, and she did not living. She said, Dad, I don't like living. I do not want to live with this condition. I said, Shamora, we're going to figure it out. I just didn't figure it out in time. So let me say this really again. Events are happening in your life. You say that those events are negative. You ordered those events. Or you did not respond when the event came to you and said, hey, we're going to show up in the physical realm if you don't address us in the spiritual realm. So I'm talking about loss. I'm talking about grief. I'm talking about, people, all the stuff that people be crying and praying for. Yeah, all that showed up first and told you, hey, we coming. What you do? Nothing. Nothing happens to you, bro, without first being told to you. You just ain't listening. Not you personally. People you know. Now, I got 100 grand to the Negro, or the non-Negro that can prove me wrong. I got 60 plus years of experience. Everything that happens, I knew before it happened. You did too. You just ain't do nothing about it. Why? You was too busy paying church, bro. I mean, not you personally, but you know. Or you was too busy chasing the TNA. I mean, not you personally, people, you know. So you was too busy, watching Love and Hip Hop and the Basketball Wives to pay attention. See, attention ain't free, bruh. You got to pay for it. So number one, reality is energy before it is matter. Reality is energy before it is matter. That means everything happens in the spirit realm before everything, not some of the things. Everything happens in the spirit realm first. Then it shows up in the physical realm. Now I'm going to say it one more time. Pay attention to what's going on. They call it discernment. Ladies, they call that woman's intuition. Women, y'all got it. Dudes can't do nothing, ladies, that y'all don't already done. Y'all just not paying attention. Remember, attention is not free. You got to pay for it. So dudes tell you, ladies, before they do anything, you just ain't listening. I mean, not you personally. That's number one. Number two, after reality is energy. Before it shows up as matter, the inner fire, the Gospel of Thomas. Ooh, wow. Man, I ain't got time to read the Gospel of Thomas. I love the way it says in the Gospel of Thomas, Brother Mwanga. It breaks it down for us, man. I talked about that yesterday. In the Gospel of Thomas, it talks about if you don't bring forth that is within you, what is within you will destroy you. You have God within you. If you don't bring about, if you don't use God, the attributes and characteristics of God that it put in you, we have this treasure. I got 800 pages that prove it, bro. How much time y'all got? Y'all got a couple more hours? We have this treasure. Biologically, laminin, we got corpus calostrum, Christ lunar germ seed oil, kundalini, kunda buffer, the parasympathetic nervous system. We have this treasure hidden in earthen vessels. What is this treasure? Christ in you. Where's he at? You think Christ is outside of you? Really? Bro, what you smoking? This your first rodeo? Are you serious? Come on, man. Stop playing with me, man. Stop playing. We talking about the alchemy of loss. We're talking about I'm talking about serious stuff. Now you go to the doctor and they tell you, hey, dog, you got the big C. You got 2 weeks before you check up out of here. What you gonna do? That's what I'm talking about. When the devil shows up at your house, bro, what you gonna do? That's what I'm talking about. So the first thing you gotta do is realize, hey, I ordered the devil, or I allowed the devil to show up, or me and the devil, we hanging out. The devil is my besties. That's number one. Reality is an entity or energy before its physicality. So you should have checked reality before it became mentality, aka materiality. Number two, inside of you is God, is an inner fire. We have this treasure, according to the Bible. We don't want to get into the non-canonized text. It'll hurt your brain, bro. When you realize whose you are, if you melanated, you read my book on melanin? Okay, that's too much. My bad. They're not ready, Brother Mwanga. They're not ready, bro. So let me get this right. You have the creative voltage of God in a body. You have the creative power of God. But what they did is they sexualized it. They got y'all niggas scared up. Scarred. Y'all scarred. Because now your sexual energy is demonic now. So you don't know. I mean, not you personally, people you know. Not you, Sister Christy. Those other folk. So we can't tell the difference between, what is energy? What is a feeling? What is your heart chakra? What is that person, place, or thing that activates your chi? So you don't want to do that. So you're not going to take God to the fight. Sexual energy is the creative force of the universe. The most powerful force on the planet. That's how you give birth. But you give birth with your tongue. This is the birth canal, bro. Your vocal cords, your vocare. If you look at the larynx, if you look at your vocal cords, it looks exactly like the female's vagina. Y'all think that's by accident? So you think it's by accident, bro? I know Brother Mwanga knows what I'm talking about. See, I'm giving birth right now, homie. Booyah. But we don't understand sex magic. We don't understand pen and paper. Habakkuk 2:2, take the vision, write it down, so that those that read it can run. Pen, penis, paper, punani, sex. Come on, man. Are you serious? So you ain't wrote nothing down. That's what we doing? Oh, that's right. You still over there, Ebenezer Baptist. Not you personally, because you know. I ain't got nothing against Ebenezer, bro. But when you leave, pen, penis, paper. You know the word penis? Rearrange the letters, you get the word spine. Y'all know that, right? Oh, my bad. That's too deep. Oh. That's the inner fire, though, I'm talking about, the kundalini and the kunda buffer. It comes up from the sphenoid. It comes up from the sacrum or the sacral or the sacred place every 28 and a half days. Christ lunar germ seed oil comes up, bing, activates. But that's too deep. Number 3 is this ability to understand that declaration is about activation, not affirmations. Declaration is about activation, not affirmation. Affirmations are good, don't get me wrong. But when Jesus spoke, gave birth, penis punani, pen to paper. When he spoke as one having authority, not affirmations. See, when you're declaring something, you are declaring what it is, past tense, not what it's going to be. So you don't create nothing. You're saying what is already created. Declaring and decreeing. So I'm stating I already have. Because to him that have, more shall be given. So when you are making a declaration, you are making an acknowledgement of what you got. So I ain't trying to get, Brother Mwanga, I already got. That's number 3. So at this level, there is no devil. Why? Because you won with the big G. You won with the pleroma. You won with the Peru. You won with source code. You are oscillating and you're vibrating at the highest level. You see, brothers and sisters, it's extremely important that you over, and understand greater is he that is in you, because you are God. Don't tell anybody I told you. You are. When you bring forth what is within you, when you express, expose, and expand, when you declare, when you make that declaration with authority, not with a hope or a wish, you are calling those things that are not as though they were, because they are. Because all things are spiritual first, then they become material. So you already are wealthy, you already are healthy, you already are wise, you're already in a great relationship with yourself, with your source, and with others, because God is spirit. And if you're made in the image and likeness of God, boo-boo, you spirit too. Now I know that's pretty deep. I ain't apologizing, because declaring and acknowledging what it says in Psalms 82:6 and in John 10, somewhere in there. Do ye not know that ye are gods? If you don't know that, according to Psalms 82:6, you will die like a man. See, you have a faulty identity. Not you personally, but people you know. You failed to self-identify. This is about revelation over manifestation. I don't do manifestation. I'm retired, Brother Mwanga, but I do revelation. That is coherence with source. Oneness. Hero is what the Lord your God is. Uno más. One. This is the year of the one. 2026 equals 10, and 10 equals 1. You see, brothers and sisters, on that level, death, where is your sting? Grave, where is your victory? It has no power over you. Man, I love you. I appreciate you. I know you can do about it. Make sure you pick up the books. Man, I just went through, about 10 different books today? Man, get to 1,000 for 1,000. Let's go. Y'all stop playing. Holla at your boy.